Hello and welcome to another episode of PeppTalks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing PeppTalks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of #BlazeItForward. Over the past 6 years, PeppTalks evolved, and now I use it for interviewing key people in our community who volunteer at the next level. Some start foundations to further their philanthropic goals. Some work at the most needed and influential nonprofits or even global community to make this world a better place. Today, I'm happy to have Mara James with us from the Extraordinary Lives Foundation. She's going to be talking to us about her work with children's books and empowering children. Yes.
And supporting families. Yeah.
And supporting families. Super. And we're going to get right to it. So welcome to PeppTalks with Jeanne. So Mara James, you started this phenomenal organization, which I became familiar with after Blaze's passing. And you were so kind to invite us to some of your events where I got to learn about the books that you're creating. The books are for children. They are children's books. You want to hold one up? And we'll put this also on, we'll have a picture of this.
So far we have two, Power Piggy Bear and Piggy Bear's Power of Happiness.
Beautiful. And these were, the artwork is done by an illustrator?
I have an amazing illustrator. We also have the Piggy Bear Power Cards and Piggy Bear Plush. And just last week we had the Piggy Bear's Power, Piggy Bear and the Lost Star was in the Newport Film Festival. We have a 6-minute animated short film.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I've had a vision of doing a series.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, and this was by the same illustrator?
No, we have an animator, the former head animator from The Simpsons.
Oh, from The Simpsons?
The former head animator, came to us.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we're just looking for a partner to help us. One that comes, they can make money, but they have to come from the heart to help us make Piggy Bear into a series and teach Piggy Bear's teachings around the world.
That sounds phenomenal. And that would be an animated series also.
Yeah.
Well, great. Okay, so this is going to be a nonprofit venture?
This is all part of ELF, right?
Of what ELF does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it would be a series that children could watch on television.
Yeah.
Like public television.
Mm-hmm. That's
love
the goal.
That.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
And just so you know, we also have a program we just created we call it the CHEW program, but it's Children's Emotional Wellness Week, empowered by Piggy Bear. So we've donated to 80 different low-income schools throughout Orange County, and we've received rave reviews. And now we're applying for grants to get it donated to all Head Start and our Title I schools in Orange County next year. And then, of course, I think globally and start locally and looking to grow and expand that just to all kids, because Piggy Bear is just all about emotional learning, how to identify emotions, do deep belly breathing, self-hug for self-love, empowering words, and the list goes on. So, and it's geared for 3 to 7-year-olds. We believe in that upstream approach, right? It's suicide prevention. We're all about it, but we don't use those words because happy, healthy children become happy, healthy teens, become happy, healthy adults.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I am excited to hear, how did this come about? How did creating programming to help children's mental health care awareness, correct?
Yeah.
How did this come about?
Very interesting story. So in May of 2014, I was 48 years old, and out of the blue, I experienced a manic episode. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It was a very, very big spiritual awakening. So when they said bipolar, I'm like, yeah, two polarities, heaven and earth. So I have a whole new understanding of mental health. I started hearing some things, seeing some things. It got a little, at the end of the month, and of course it was May because that's National Mental Health Awareness Month, right? Nothing random. But at the end of the month, I saw 3 games floating to me with the word destiny. And I said, God, I know it's my destiny. This is too much. Like they were floating to me. I'm like, I need medication. So I went to a psychiatrist, heavily medicated, thankfully not in the hospital. Years ago, they would have locked me up and thrown away the key.
Oh, wow.
So heavily medicated, started my healing journey. I met with a psychiatrist and therapist first. And luckily, the universe brought me healer after healer after healer. And that's really what helped me heal and transform my life. After a year and a half of very hard work, I was able to be weaned off of my medication.
Wow.
I joke around. I went from medication to meditation.
Oh, medication to meditation. I like that.
Yeah. And then also Piggy Bear, it was funny. So during my episode, I became obsessed with the stuffed animal.
Okay.
And my daughter was playing softball and I would bring it. I was like, Power the Pig, Pig's going to save the world. And it's like, she was like, what's going on? And my husband was horrified. Lo and behold, the pig transformed into Piggy Bear. And this is where we teach children not, or everybody, right? Don't judge, right? Some people think he looks like a pig. Some people think he looks like a bear. It doesn't matter what we look like. We're all amazing just the way we are. So that's just one of the few teachings, one of the many teaching that Piggy Bear does. Anyway, so Piggy Bear kind of came about and was really there to help me during all my healing was based on my inner child, like really that 3 to 7 year olds. So Piggy Bear was really there to help me through my journey. And so many adults that read the Piggy Bear books say, oh my God, I wish I had Piggy Bear and these tools when I was a child, right? No one didn't believed in them and just all these different things. So this is all Piggy Bear. That's how Piggy Bear came about. And then with all these healers, we started the Hugs for Life Healing Center. Hugs is healing, understanding, growth, and spirituality, and it bridges the gap between medical professionals and holistic healers.
Oh, interesting.
And right now it's part of ELF, but we are changing it next year. It has to be a for-profit just the way it's set up, but the sole proprietor, the only owner will be ELF and very related. So ELF raises funds to donate like Piggy Bear products to either low-income schools or vulnerable children. And we also raise funds to pay for healing sessions for children, 0 to 0 pregnant mom, but up to 25-year-olds.
Wow. And this is all for mental health care.
Mental and emotional care.
And emotional care. Okay, that's just really beautiful. So what was the first thing that happened in your journey to create this foundation?
So I didn't even finish, sorry. So during my month of May, what I used to call my manic month of May, now I call my magical month of May, my son was a freshman at UC Santa Barbara. Oh, yeah. And his friend was a victim of the Isla Vista shooting. Yes. If you remember, there was a 22-year-old, remember we talked about that, that killed 6 people and himself. And right when that happened, that's when I'll use the term God, universe, but I'll say God, it's easier. When God said to me, you need to work with children because that shooter could have been my middle son. Thank God he wasn't. But my middle son at the age of 6 was diagnosed with Asperger's and ADHD. At 15 or 16, after my awakening, thank God, there was such a darkness that took over him. And I was convinced he would pick up a gun and he could shoot, he would, whatever it was going to happen. I was horrified. And thankfully I had these healers that were able to clear him. And now he's this like sweet, just very innocent. It was just this darkness that took over. Wow. And he's 24, studying for his PhD across the country by himself. Wow. But that's why I started the foundation. And next year is the 10-year anniversary of the Isla Vista shooting. So I'm being guided to host a mental health wellness concert there. But the number one goal is to bring healing because Santa Barbara, not only are the people suffering, but I was told that the land is suffering. So we need to want this concert to bring like love, light, healing there. And then just bringing everyone together, Well, I don't believe there are any coincidences. And I did not realize your connection to UC Santa Barbara had anything to do with that shooting, but I have a few things to share with you, which you might find interesting. First of all, UC Santa Barbara is my alma mater. Wow. I was very aware of that shooting and I was horrified by it. 4 years later, my son was murdered. The person that is in jail now, awaiting trial, he is considered to be an incel, which the person who did this at UC Santa Barbara is considered to be one of the leaders of the incel movement. And he created a video, a manifesto that he put on the internet right before he did this horrific act. And that is used by incels. And it is still up on YouTube for people to watch. Ugh. And it makes me ill to say that. But we're going to try to vibe in a higher place and stay positive. But thankfully, there are people like Mara James that are doing something about the mental health crisis that we have in this country that affect children, high school students, and a vulnerable demographic that are not getting the services that they need so that we can prevent these horrific crimes and that we can bring these children around before it is too late. Because as we've seen, what happens when we don't do anything. And I believe that the shooter of those in that situation, that he was receiving a lot of mental health care from his family, had access to it for him, but not enough. And maybe not the right type. So holistic healing complements, doesn't replace Western medicine. And it's so important. I mean, when there's literally an energetic attachment, that's a darkness, medicine Therapy doesn't remove it. And this is what's so beautiful. I was telling you before is that our local beautiful Hoag Hospital approached us. They said, listen, a lot of our therapists are having patients that are hearing and seeing things. Can you give us a presentation? And next month we're giving a presentation, Understanding Subtle Senses, because there's that gift that exists, right? People like say that you hear God or whoever from the other side, you know, people always a lot of times hear people that have passed over, but there's also that darkness.
Yeah.
Right. And like learning how to, you know, either protect your child, you know, or like even all these children this day and age, they are born, they're empathic. They literally, it sounds like it's a gift, but can also be a curse. They literally pick up on other people's energy. So the parents get to learn how to protect them energetically. So A, they don't get drained, and B, they don't take on the emotions of all these others. Mm-hmm. So there was like a high schooler that could not take a test without being anxious in the classroom. So we suggested that he takes a test in his own room, and he was fine. Like he literally was picking up. I was speaking with a client yesterday, and she was telling me a story, and I just started crying. Like I didn't even get to hear the story, and I'm like, oh my God, are you feeling really sad? So again, like it's good to be able to bond with somebody that way, but also to like release all this, you know,
it
these
sounds
emotions
like you're
that
a
aren't
real
ours.
empathetic human being. Has that been something that you've had to deal with your whole life, being very empathetic?
So I've never realized it. So mind you, you know, I've done a lot of, and we don't have to get to it now, but I've done a lot of inner child healing. Maybe we will. Okay. So at 48 years old, when I had my episode, I told you I was working very hard. So 4 years later, I'm off my medication and pretty solid, still working. And to this day, I work with healers. And I was working with a healer about 5 years ago. And I had the revelation of my dad crossing the line with me. So that was a lot to heal. And then a year later, I'm another healer. And she's like, do you think somebody else molested you in addition to your dad? And I'm like, because I'm healed, I can joke about it. I'm like, aha, the plot thickens. So she's like, yeah. And I'm being told that he's the one that did the worst thing. So I will tell you, I believe that my spiritual awakening was it was a gift to help me through this traumatic healing process.
Wow, that's heavy. That's a big one. You know, mental illness is still very stigmatized in the United States, and I don't know what the situation is in other countries, but it couldn't be any worse than it is here. I remember when I was growing up, there really wasn't any access to mental health care, for at least not in my family. And believe me, there were a lot of people that needed it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I laugh about it, but it's really not a laughing matter, because the people that are dealing with these mental health care issues in their families, they are victimized by it. They are often the victims of mental health care not being available, or because it is stigmatized, people not availing themselves of it when they should be. So, and this has definitely been like a generational problem, I know, in my own family. And I hope, I pray, and let's send out those good vibes that the work that you are doing and that other professionals in this arena are doing to help children. I know our mutual friend Adrian Matros is very involved in this issue.
Yep.
But healthcare for young people is so important, and for so many reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is teen suicide. It's not going away. Mm-hmm. And it's the demographic that is affected by it the most is LGBTQA+ youth. They are the most at risk of teen suicide, and that is a population that I advocate for ferociously, because my son was part of that population, and my son suffered a lot because, unfortunately, when you are part of a stigmatized demographic and you have a stigmatized condition, you may not get the care that you need, or you may get it late. You may not get help that you need. So this is really a beautiful thing that you're doing, extremely helpful. So is this only available to children? Because I see that you're creating a lot of like children's books. Is this something that you will make available to teenagers also?
Definitely. Like first we have to, I became a visionary, right, from a spiritual awakening. So I'm shown like things way down the road, but now we have to focus on getting it out for 3 to 7 year olds. Mm-hmm. And then definitely going, from preschool to elementary school, and then moving more towards middle school and high school, and definitely open to working with a partner to create this, because, mm-hmm. I have an amazing organization. I won't say it now, but the sister organization where we saw each other a few weeks ago, and they would be like a great partner.
Which one is that?
TLC.
Oh yeah, this is Tilly's Life Centers,
Yeah.
which I also
Love.
I love this organization. I actually just gave them a nice donation because I love the work that they do. Tilly's Life Foundation, wonderful group. In addition to the ELF Foundation that Mara has founded. Tell us, how long has Extraordinary Lives Foundation been in existence?
2015.
Okay, so this is an 8-year long commitment and your passion project. Have you seen people's lives that have been changed by the work that you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's first mine, and then 2 of my 3 children. Even my husband, who is a Western trained OBGYN. And at first, he was horrified with what was going on because his idea of mental health is, when he was in medical school, and he saw like the VA patients and just had no understanding. And then he saw the transformation, actually, I think, and his life started changing, going through some of our healers. And it's just so many people, lives, definitely. And it's funny because a lot of times the parent, usually it's the mother, will call because their child's going through something. And then I believe God's way to change the world is through children's mental health, because the children are reflecting what the parents get to heal or need to heal, as my daughter would. My daughter says get to heal. I say need to heal, but yeah.
Okay.
Problem is with hatred, there's so much in the world right now. The hatred, it's like we're taking a pill to try to kill the other person, and it only hurts us.
This is absolutely right. In fact, this is something that I've talked about before, and that is that when we're angry or hostile or vengeful or any of this negativity, it really only hurts you.
Yeah, it eats us up.
Yeah, it's
a journey to forgive, right? Don't get me wrong. So starting with, having compassion is the first thing. So I had an intuitive person tell me with my dad, he was molested as a little boy, and it made sense because that darkness takes over. And then so when he's molesting me or whoever, whatever, he's not even consciously aware of doing it. It's like this dark force literally takes over.
Wow. Well, that's debatable, but whatever it is, whatever inspires evil, who's to say?
No, there's definitely darkness in the world, but then there's also so much beauty, love, and light, as you know, and you're here to bring in so much.
And you have also turned this around because clearly you have experienced generational trauma. And this was passed down to you. And just like your father had a choice, you have a choice. And you've decided to take something that you didn't ask for and turn it into something that could help other people, which is extraordinary in and of itself. And
extraordinary.
And amazing. It really
people
is.
living extraordinary lives.
No,
so
really
it's interesting when you say, my dad, it's a choice. So people don't realize that they become like that which they resent. And if they don't realize they resent somebody, or they, my dad was born in 1922, so he was a lot older. And, you have to choose to want to realize there's a problem and to heal.
Correct.
So I don't think, I know I have so many men that are, I know right now that I know intuitively that they were molested and they didn't do any healing, and one's an alcoholic and one's, just all these different things. So it's not always a choice, and then the other thing is things happen. So this happened to me. I was 3.5, 4, 5 years old. I didn't even remember until 52 years old, right? So I was running around, and I had definitely undiagnosed PTSD, anxiety, and all this stuff. So this is where helping the youth, the sooner we can help, the better off. Right? If I could have been helped, this, I don't know what the age, I never studied. I just did a lot of healing and studied with healers, but not, didn't go to school for psychology. But there's an age, whether it's high school or even 18 to 25, it's such an important age to help move children, adolescents, that life happens to me and we're victims, because we all are, to life happens for me. And then Kabbalah teaches that the third level is that life happens through me. And it's just such a beautiful thing.
That really is. That's what I say that again for people.
So life happens to me, because we're all victims, right? We're here and and all these stories.
That's the lowest level, though. That's when we're vibing at the lowest level. But when you victimize yourself, when you allow yourself to be a victim.
Well, not even that, though. I feel like when we're born and our parents are giving us this and that, and and the schools are saying you have to do this and that, and you might have a gifted child that doesn't learn the way everybody else does, and they're saying they're misbehaving, and so we're all victims. Life happens to us. Then if we can do that work to realize that life happens for us and see the gifts, right? I used to be really
so gratitude, like saying, this isn't the perfect life, but I'm happy with. I have gifts. I can live this life with the gifts I have.
Yeah, but gratitude, you can't right. But that to get to gratitude, it's a process. Right. And that person gets to work through their, I don't know what the levels, but the anger, the resentment, all that, all the levels to get to life happens for me. And then at some level, I'm not sure what takes you to life happens through me. So sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and I'll just say something and I swear God's talking through me because I have no idea why I said it. And that's exactly what they need to hear.
Okay. So tell me about your future projects. Like after you finish with the children's books, what's the next thing that you want to be working on with this?
So what we're working on right now is I have a whole list of books that I want to get out there. I wrote one on the plane ride home from New York. Piggy Bear's Power of Sleepover is about, divorce and just like all different, different topics. So we want to get a whole book series out there. We want to create the Piggy Bear TV series. As I said, we want to have a partner that does all the merchandising and we'll get the residuals. And then from $1 billion plus that we get from Piggy Bear, we get to take and we get to help people heal. Because this is awareness and prevention, but the real intervention is with these holistic healers. And that I know is my life mission.
Is to get the holistic healing to be considered legitimate, valid treatment for mental health concerns for children. Eventually,
yes. Now, mind you, when someone's up there and they need to come down, let's stabilize. Medication is great, but then that's surviving. We want to thrive. So we say healing, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. I repeat, suffering is optional. People don't know that they don't have to. So they don't realize it's a choice and healing is possible.
Well, that's profound. So suffering,
pain is inevitable.
Yeah,
we experience it. Some of us, as you know, worse than others.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Suffering is optional.
Yeah,
and pain and healing is possible.
Yes, amen to that. This is like all very interesting stuff. What's your take on people that are schizophrenic? I mean, you were not diagnosed that way, but it sounds like I know that part of the bipolar illness can involve schizoid episodes.
That's it.
And it sounds like that may have been what occurred.
Mm-hmm. Or a psychotic break. So to my personal, not studied opinion and understanding is that somebody that has a schizophrenia had trauma in their life and they checked out of this reality into, let's just say, another reality. So when you see somebody walking across the street and sometimes you see a bum and they're talking to themselves. Maybe they're not talking to themselves. Maybe they're talking to somebody
in a different place.
In a different place, exactly.
They don't live here anymore.
Yeah, and lucky them. No, because I always say heaven and hell is right here, right? We've experienced.
Did you ever feel like you disassociated from yourself and that you did not want to return?
So when I had that really quick experience where like I was one with the white light, like I was in pure bliss, but it was so quick. And then, that I never thought I didn't want to return. I also believe that this was my journey. And it's like people would say like, why did God choose you or me? Like this is everything I believe is all predetermined. And as bizarre as it sounds, a lot of spiritual people believe like we sit around a table before we incarnate with our team and whether it's God, Jesus, whatever, and different, like, so what my healer said to me. So when I was with my dad, before we incarnated, I'm like, Dad, I need you to do this and this. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, and I need you to do this, molest me. He's like, you want me to do what? Like, I need you to do this and you're the one to do it. Because I have a great story right now. For me to be able to heal my father molesting me and never feeling safe, that's a really inspiring story to encourage others to heal.
Wow.
I don't know if you know, John, I almost said John Cusack. John Stamos just came out with his story about him being molested as a child. And it makes sense. That's why he's had all of his, whatever issues like drinking or this or that and DUI, whatever it was. And I'm so grateful that he and other people come out with their stories.
It is helpful. Like Brooke Shields came out with her postpartum depression, and that opened the door for many women to get treatment that was much needed.
Right. And this is what
saved lives too.
Absolutely. I talk to so many of my husband's patients, and I'm guided to share with what I'm supposed to. And so many of them look at me and I'm thinking they're judging me. They're like, and a couple, wow, at 5 years old, a lot of them are like, I was molested at 5 and I never told anybody. I'm like, that is too much for you to hold in. The shame, the blame, the guilt, da, 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 da. So as we work on healing, our removing all the layers around the ego, right? So ego is ego, it's edging God out, right? Because we literally are part, like we're a spiritual being having a human experience, and we are all one. We're all part of this God-like light in us, but the ego totally separates us, and there's all that anger, hate, So as we go, so I was lucky that I was given that, like that pure soul, whereas unconditional love, right? And then I was medicated. Then I got to go through my healing, or I get to go through my healing journey, like releasing shame, blame, guilt, anger, resentment, releasing and even pride, and just being one with your soul. And it's the most beautiful, loving thing in the world.
Wow, that is a lot to take in. But I have to say that I've heard similar, I'm going to call it testimony.
Oh, good.
From people who use chemicals to reach these elevated states that you're talking about. Like people use psychedelic drugs to be able to access the Godhead. Yeah. Or, I mean, I was actually reading something by Dr. Richard Alpert, who was like the guru. He became Ram Dass, but he was one of the first people in America to experiment with psychedelic drugs, and he ended up creating a foundation to teach people about what he learned, so that we wouldn't have to use them ourselves, because they are harmful. They can be very harmful to our health, and they're not very well understood because there hasn't been much research with them. But I have read that this is a very common trope for people that have experienced these elevated states, and people use all different things people have tantric sex to reach these elevated states of consciousness. Yeah. So, there's clearly something there, and it's all very positive. I mean, I'm actually reading a book. I'm going to put a shout out to Dr. Laura Berman, who just wrote a book called Quantum Love, which talks about this idea that we are all made of energy, that love is energy, very positive energy, and that we can control the vibration and frequency of the energy that we release into the universe. And the higher positivity that we create with our thoughts, and love is obviously a very positive thing, and caring and giving. These are all very positive things that can elevate us. It can elevate not just us, because this energy doesn't stay within us. This energy is within the quantum field, which is 99% nothing's in it.
Yeah. So, no thing, right?
Right? Because we're just 99% of us is void. Yeah. There's nothing in it. Yeah. So just like outer space.
Well, it's what holds our molecules and cells together.
Correct.
It's the God particle.
Okay. So that's one way of looking at it. So so this energy is affected by the vibrations of our thoughts, because our thoughts are energy. We are energy. So, when you start to think about, like, you get into like the way that science and philosophy kind of go together, like this is like, it's hard to prove it. It's hard to experience it. Not everybody is as spiritual as you are. I can't always experience these very elevated states, but it's fascinating. And I think it's important for people listening today to not only understand that Mara has taken her experiences with manic depression. That's another commonly used term for bipolar illness. She's used her experience with it, and she's taken something away from it that is very, very positive. She has allowed it to become a spiritual awakening for her. She has she's used it to interpret. She's interpreted this as a message to her that she needed to do something to help children. And she's done something extraordinary with it, hence the name Extraordinary Lives Foundation. So I have to commend you for that, because not everybody who suffers from mental illness is able to take anything positive away from it. Some people can't even function. I mean, let me tell you, after my son died, I wasn't diagnosed with anything, but just, grief is paralyzing. Yeah. And anybody that's suffered from trauma and has experienced grief, depression, you feel like you don't even want to get out of bed. You can't really function or cope. So for you to be able to say, I'm not going to let this end my life, and I'm not going to let this destroy my family, I'm going to do something very positive with this, is really fantastic. And it gives everybody hope. Everyone should be hopeful when they hear this, because no matter what your trauma is, And there is no one that I know of that gets to be in the middle of their life that hasn't experienced some form of trauma.
Yep. Big T's
I mean,
like us or little T?
Yeah. If you haven't experienced any trauma in your life, if you've had a perfect life, I want you to make contact with me. I'd like to meet you.
Yeah.
I want to see what that. I want to see what that looks like. I really want to. I hope there is somebody out there that has. It would be my goal is that no one should have trauma in their life.
Right, but
in this reality, we do.
Right,
because we're here
in duality,
to learn.
Exactly, we're universal planet Earth to learn.
I believe that. I believe, and actually, I've had I was talking to Mara about this outside of this podcast, and I actually have had lucid dreaming where I have felt like I was given instructions that you are here to learn. It's not why. The question is not why. Why is this happening to me?
What do I do with it?
And like what you were saying, you can repeat that again, what you said about life happens to me.
Life happens. I'm a victim. Life happens to me.
Right. Yeah.
And then as you heal, it happens for me. And then eventually is through me.
Yes. So, I was kind of stuck in this feedback loop. Why me? Why me? Why me? Why us? Why my son? Why are we experiencing this horror? Like, why? I don't understand it. Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, why are we in this reality where good people die and children die? And like, why? It doesn't make sense to me. But then, through this lucid dreaming, I don't know if I called it a revelation. It was a revelation.
Yeah,
it was something was revealed to me. Maybe it came from me. Maybe it came from outer space. Maybe it came from
higher power.
Well, who knows? But that it's not why. It's what?
Right.
What's the question? What
do I learn from it? Everything that
Yes.
happens in our life is a learning lesson.
It's a learning
Even
lesson.
if somebody's
That's right.
pushing our buttons, I always will do a session to see why I would have manifested that in my life, right? Definitely. Every trauma is here to help wake us up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, I don't like the word dying because we get to transition, right? We get to go back home. It's the best thing and I can't wait.
It's an interesting word that you used because Ram Dass, he wrote a book called Coming Home about death.
Yeah, I can't.
That's
literally. And then this is where
fascinating. That you use the same
Oprah
word.
Winfrey interviewed U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy a few months ago at UCLA, and he's such a beautiful soul. So Dr. Murthy said that 1 out of 2 individuals, Americans, are lonely, and it's going to take a spiritual awakening to change it. And I was so excited. So let's just go for a second that we So we're part God. We have the soul, right? And so God is like our divine father, heavenly mother on the other side. And then we're born into this world with the parents that we choose, which, by the way...
Oh, you believe you chose your parents?
1,000%.
I don't think I got a choice. I think I was switched at birth, actually, but we can talk about that another day.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, yeah, I mean, so we can't wait for that. Yeah, but so we choose the parents, and we got the parents that not that we wanted, that we needed to teach us our lessons. It's a big
Oh my God!
No.
Wow.
Okay, my mom was bipolar. My dad molested me. Like it doesn't.
That was a bad decision.
Right.
There.
But to be able to heal from that, and and then it's ironic because then my dad was old. I'm like, God, can you just take him? It'd be easier for me to forgive him, And I never had to say I forgive you to him. But this is where, have you ever heard the Ho'oponopono prayer? It's very powerful. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And to do it to everybody, towards everybody, not saying it to them. So,
can you say that again, like really clearly so everybody can hear you?
So the Ho'oponopono prayer, you could say
Ho'oponopono. Is this like an Indian word? What is that?
It's a Hawaiian
A Hawaiian prayer.
Yep. And if we say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And I'll tell you, as simple as there was somebody I was working with, and I was, and she was passive aggressive, and I couldn't work with her anymore. So one of my healers is like, okay, it's time for Ho'oponopono. So I'm like, thank you so much for helping me, blah, blah, blah. Please forgive me if I wasn't, whatever. I'm sorry. And I said to my healer, I'm like, I can't say I love you. She goes, then say I love you for showing me that I still have stuff to heal.
Wow. Oh, wow. This is deep stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't realize you had, you know what it is? I think I know why you talk so fast. Because you have so much to get
say.
Out.
Yeah. And I'm from New York. And
you're from New York. Okay. New Yorkers can talk fast. You get the New York card. But the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is because you are talking so fast. I am afraid that people will not hear all of the things that you're saying, which are really important, very fascinating, interesting things. And they are of interest to me because, as I told you earlier, I believe I've had a spiritual awakening recently too, when I came to understand that I needed to stop asking why. So I feel like at that point in time, I elevated myself to maybe the next place, which is life is for me. But I always thought life was for me until bad things happened. I have to tell you, I was always kind of there. Like I always felt like this is an incredible world. I was gifted with so many things. I have incredible friends. Yes, things were never perfect in my upbringing in my early life, but who cares? It's good now. Live in the present, you know?
And then bam,
and then,
your learning became.
I was living with the Rockwellian Jewish life in beautiful Orange County inside of the bubble of perfection. I raised my kids in this suburb that like people would dream of raising their children in. And perfect weather, you know, I had the perfect husband and I had the most beautiful 3 children and we had a beautiful home and I didn't worry about much other than, you know, like we had, you know, common things that happened. My mother got sick, you know, people had their illnesses and all of that stuff, but normal stuff, normal. Yeah. But then, you know, when the bomb dropped and my son was murdered, I started to think, you know, why?
It was a rude. Yeah.
It was like kind of like a rude awakening. Like, and then I kind of fell into that victim mode. I fell back into it. Like, why is this happening to me? And I just really was stuck there for a long time.
Yeah. So there's a saying that God gives us feathers and they float by. And then we're given the golf ball and we're like, oh, and then we're given the brick. And I'm going to say the frickin' brick. And that's death, cancer, you know, all this dark stuff to push us up.
Well, clearly you've had generational trauma. I mean, right? I mean,
totally,
there's no question about it.
And this is where it's time to heal it.
You did.
Yeah, so totally. And this is where it's time to heal it. Right. And then we could make the world a better place for our kids. And this is where if the kids don't change, then if the parents don't change, the kids suffer.
Yeah, this is fascinating. So, I mean, I think what I'm taking away from this is that for people that have dealt, I mean, and a lot of people deal with mental health issues. I mean, I think Jewish people anxiety. Probably more than ever. I don't know. Yeah, the mishigas. That's why we have that word. For those that don't understand what that means, it's a Yiddish word that means mentally ill.
No, when you have mishigas, no, not mentally. You just have stuff.
Oh, is that stuff?
Or maybe even if you have fear and anxiety, if you just have like issues. It doesn't have to be mentally ill.
Okay, it doesn't have to be mental health issues. It could be any issues, just any trauma, any problems. That's a mishigas. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, we all have mishigas. We all have it.
It's been clarified. we all have it. So, but I mean, I think what the takeaway here is that you know, whether you've had mental health issues yourself, whether your children are experiencing it, and believe me, in this climate of our world, our modern primitive world, if you're not experiencing some form of mental health crisis in your life, you are lucky, or you're in denial. But
you've done a lot of work to
you've already fixed it. Yeah.
Well, if I could share with you with my daughter, she's now 22, so she developed Graves' disease, which in hindsight now I know why she manifested it, to get away from her abuser. But she didn't want to, and we didn't know back then. But she didn't want to she didn't want to take medication for anxiety and depression. Luckily, she started working with. I had my healer, so she started working, and she's trained with a female shaman for the past 8 years, and now she's such a gifted healer. She connects. Like, it was bizarre when I'm looking at my dad when he's dead. My daughter's on the phone, like, Grandpa's on the right side, and he's saying blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, this is bizarre. She is very close and connected with my mother. So she once said to me, I'm your mother and your daughter. And her friend took his life 2 years ago at the age of 20. And he came back to her and said, you need to keep doing your healing work because too many like us are suffering. So my daughter, like Blaze, is part of the beautiful LGBTQ plus community. And I believe that these kids incarnate with that they're incarnated angels that are going to go through this to help change, because and my daughter, you know, as a Jew, she dated 3 Catholic, and there's no judgment here, I'm just making a point. I mean, just stating a fact. She dated 3 Catholic girls, different times, and each of them either had a parent or a grandparent that didn't accept them. And they're Catholic. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus would say, like, he's going to come back, or, you know, as a transvestite or a lesbian woman. And this is where teaching unconditional love and stop the judgment. And there's so much judgment out there. And I mean, if you meet someone in this community, it is the most beautiful, loving community in the world. So
I would agree with you, because I have been completely embraced by the community, and I find them to be very, very kind.
Pure.
I mean, not everybody's kind. Let's face it.
Well, it depends, though, because they've been through their trauma, and whether it depends if they're victims or they're, definitely.
Okay, I think we need to wrap this up. I could probably do this with you every day. There's a lot in there, and I hope that you find another podcast because I want to hear it. There's a lot more to come out of you. Maybe we'll do this again someday. Let's see what everybody thinks about this one, and then we'll do it again.
Definitely.
And I'd like questions that people would have of you, because you are a fascinating human being. You are blessed. You are so full of energy, insight, and you have turned around something that for some people is debilitating, devastating, difficult, the 3Ds. You have made this, you've made something out of it, and I am very impressed. Very impressed with you.
Thank you. I just want to put out there, if anyone's experiencing any emotions, I mean, I was just talking to your friend before, and she has an issue with spiders. I'm like, you can get rid of that. Like I believe everything is healable, right? Fears, it might be whether or not you believe in a past life. It could be something from a past life that's carrying now. There's been so many healings that are possible. So if it's fear or anxiety, it doesn't have to be like diagnose something. If you just have fear and anxiety that you want to release, it's possible. Please reach out. We'd love to help you, because again, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and healing is possible.
I love that. I love what you're doing. I think you are... You're helping to make this world a better place. You're vibing very high. You are making the energy in this world better for all people. And I hope to see a lot more of you and the great work that you're doing. And I hope to see public television give you a call and say, we want to produce your show, because anything you do will be blessed. I am sure of that. So, well, that's been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. And once again, I would like to thank our guest, Mara James of the Extraordinary Lives Foundation, which the website, if you would like to learn more about what she does and what they do, elfempowers.org. And her next big event is going to be in 2024, October 24th, 2024, which is a big comedy night, lots of fun. She gets top headliners to come to Orange County to perform, and it is a terrific benefit. I have joined her for this occasion, and it is extraordinary, like she is.
Just want to say it's been such a pleasure being here. And to everybody watching, don't ever forget that you are amazing.
Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started to repair the world with kindness in honor of our son Blaze, who was murdered in 2018. You can learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference on our website, www.blazebernstein.org, or on our Facebook group, which you can find at #BlazeItForward. And a special thank yous to all the volunteers that have helped with my philanthropic endeavors today. That is a thank you to my camera operator, Keith Anthony, and audio technician, Eli Moskowitz, who will be also wearing many hats doing the post-production too. And thank you all again for joining me. I'm Jeanne Pepper, and this has been another edition of Pep Talks with Jeanne. Thank you.